Hi guys, welcome back to the Fix My Posture series. I'm Dr. Blimiers and I have a guest with me today. We have Chanelle John. She's here. She's a nutrition specialist and we're going to be talking about nutrition today, and I'm so excited. It's something I am so passionate about, and we've actually done a talk on muscle strength. So if you haven't watched that, please go back and watch it. It has some gems in there that I think are just going to change your life. Well, welcome back.
Thank you.
So, nutrition.
Yeah.
I'll start there.
It is a very often daunting word.
Yeah.
Food in general often is a very daunting thing to discuss with people. Diet and what people believe diet is, and like the relationship with food generally can be a little bit messy. And as a nutritionist, my job essentially is to help people connect with food, right? Okay. Connect with food in a way that helps them to thrive within the life that they want to lead, right? But also to make changes within the current context of their life, right?
Yeah.
So whether you are a working mom, you're a single father, you are old, your kids have left, and now you have time to like prioritize yourself and like look at what you actually want. My job is kind of to tie all that in together. And I know that food is so important, not just to us as Africans, but like as human beings, right?
Yeah.
Food is so integral, not just to keeping us alive, but it is a social marker, right? We know that auntie's potato salad at that bride, right?
Yeah.
We remember people for particular things and particular events, for like that amazing cake we ate, right? Let's go and have pizza at this place. So it's a social bind, I guess you could say, as well. It's also incredibly important in culture, right? Different cultures obviously got their own ways of cooking, preparing certain foods, which again is very important when it comes to identity as a human being.
Right.
So food is not just fuel to eat, but it's many different things to many different people. And within that, of course, food is meant to be nourishing. Unfortunately, what we eat today often isn't even actual food. If I were to ask you to identify the ingredients that go into making a particular product, most of you wouldn't be able to tell me what's in there.
Oh yeah, 100%. I think that was the thing is if you couldn't pronounce some of the ingredients on what you're eating, maybe that's not the best. I would say maybe, but
and if there's numbers in there like E45 and E whatever, then again we are heading into danger. Like you shouldn't be eating numbers, right? If there's chemical numbers in there, this is concerning.
I think it's, what the thing is it's complicated, right? Because one, there's always, and I'll say this, there's always an excuse, right? And it can be daunting. So someone like me who's had tummy issues pretty much from when I was a kid, right? I remember going to trauma center because I had like tummy cramps, and I remember that, and then kind of having to play around with my diet and go, what's working for me, what isn't working for me, and then falling into I know this isn't good for me, but oh my gosh, here I am, and then having to be like, how did I get back here, right? And so it's interesting because even that mindset around it, and I love that you say become connected to your food, because right now I feel connected to my food not out of a obligation, but I love that this is giving me goodness, and
you feel good after eating it, and there's no like guilt or shame attached. That's a conversation for another day, but I think very much as women especially there's a lot of guilt and shame attached to what you're eating, right? And there really shouldn't be that. If you want to eat the cake, have that slice of cake, right? But it's like how the mindset going into it, like how is this cake like because you're feeling terrible and you need to pick me up? Is it just because you want to have cake? Is it you're celebrating with someone and it's engaging in a social behavior? Like what is that? Why are you doing it, right?
Right.
Yeah.
I like that you're asking why and mindset, because in the last video we spoke about evolution in terms of physical fitness and physical activity. Well, we can talk about evolution and food, right? One of the things that I always say to my patients is you have to understand that the body is still functioning on that concept that we're going to have winter, and when winter comes there is no food for for us to hunt, for us to farm. So we have to store energy for winter. What's currently happening, unfortunately, is that there is food everywhere. Your kitchen, it is literally, you go to the supermarket.
Your phone, like, I mean, takeaway, dial the delivery.
You don't have to go anywhere.
You don't even have to leave your house.
And that's something that is, kind of bringing people back to the awareness of that, right?
Yeah. I feel like that word awareness is so important.
Yeah.
So few of us actually even know when we're actually hungry or when we're actually full. If I were to ask someone, like, when was the last time you felt hungry? Often I get like a weird look, or I'm like, why do you eat 3 meals a day? And they're like, because I was told to. Not because like that's what your body actually wants or needs, right? I think that's where kind of the whole idea, one of the ideas of intermittent fasting came on, like breaking for longer periods and then like eating smaller meals or like having 2 meals. But really it's about being aware and listening to your body's signals, right? Your body doesn't make you feel hungry for no reason. It doesn't send you these signals, make your tummy growl, doesn't make you have digestive issues for no reason. It's telling you that something is not okay, right? You don't just get rashes or like itchy eyes or whatever sign or symptom you're getting for no reason. Inflammation is a sign that something is not okay, right? And I feel like, we talked about evolution. For human beings, we haven't caught up with how much technology has progressed in terms of our farming practices that we use now, food being so widely available, products, let me say, being so widely available. Our brains are still geared towards sweet is good, because finding sweet things once upon a time was really hard. Like wild berries and wild apples and things like that weren't actually that great to eat. So when we found something that was sweet, we got excited, right? And our brain is still on that like, ooh, sweet, this is exciting. Eat more, right? We need this stuff because who knows when we're next going to come across it, right? Let's store up this stuff.
Okay, so let's talk about, so I like that you talk about that, and there's 2 things that I would like to, kind of talk about here. Is first, just the idea that sugar acts like a drug, right? And it's hard. It's really hard to actually take yourself off of the and sugar, and not just like teaspoon of sugar. But I'm saying to people, I'm going, hey, do you realize that your carbs are sugar and your milk breaks down to sugar, and then you start to eat all the refined stuff, and that's all sugar, and it's all just dopamine. It's just like this drug, and then when you tell someone,
like, let's slow down, right? And also not just the dopamine, but also insulin. You're just having these massive fluctuations throughout the day, right? Which is also cause for concern. So in terms of sugar, I tend to want to look at refined sugar first, because that's usually where the problem starts, right? People start to say, oh, so fruit is bad for me then because it's got sugar. And I'm like, no, whole fruit is good for you. When you're now like surviving on fruit in the juiced form, that's no longer fruit, right? You're drinking liquid fructose. You're not drinking with some vitamins in it, okay? You're not actually having fruit. No. And they're like, but it's good for you. I'm like, but I'm doing a juice cleanse. I'm like, oh, oh dear. There are so many things wrong with that statement. But let's start with the first thing. So refined sugar is definitely a problem, and people who say, oh, I've got a sweet tooth. The first thing is usually in their beverages, right? And it's the tea. I'm having 2 teaspoons of sugar. Okay. And how many cups of tea are you having a day? 3. So now we've got 6 teaspoons of refined sugar a day, right? Tell me what else you're having. Oh, I'll just have like a fruit juice. That's healthy, right? The box fruit juice, not so much. It's almost as bad as, in my eyes, almost as bad as like fizzy drinks, to be honest with you. And then it's things like, I'm also going out and having a cappuccino. Okay, not a problem. And then I'm adding 3 teaspoons of sugar in that. Okay. So it all adds up eventually, and then you're wondering why you're having these almost like hyperglycemic episodes throughout the day, right? Also because people tend to survive on refined foods and not like whole food anymore.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of problems there, and also the more sugar you eat, the more sugar you want to eat.
Yeah.
That's where the drug part comes in, right?
Yeah.
So a drug is not necessarily anything that's bad. A drug is anything that changes the way your body responds, right? That's basically what a drug is. In that case, caffeine is a drug. It changes the way your body functions, essentially. What's happening physiologically inside you. Sugar does the same thing. But it is particularly addictive because it is linked to hormones in our brains that are like, this is good stuff.
Yeah, and then I guess if we circle back to the first video where we spoke about muscle strength, right? And now how do we kind of incorporate nutrition into this, right? So we've spoken about movement, but what is the nutrition that supports that?
So this will sound surprising to a lot of people, but a lot of people are very much protein deficient, right? We think that because we're eating a lot or sufficient calories, that we're eating to support our health, right? But where are those calories coming from, right? 70% of your calories, are they coming from carbs? So that leaves me only 30% that's going to be made up of proteins and fats. And of that 30%, I highly doubt that you can even get 25% that's going to come from protein, right? So people think when I say protein, that means animals. Not necessarily, right? Animal protein is great if you are an omnivore, essentially.
Right.
Because it is efficient. So any 100 grams of animal protein is always going to have more actual protein in it than the plant version. So for example, if we look at chicken, okay, 100 grams of chicken is going to have about 30 to 35 grams of protein in it, whereas 100 grams of something like a legume like lentils, which a lot of vegetarians and vegans use to get their protein from, 8 to 10 grams of protein in the exact same 100 grams. So you need to eat 3 times the amount of lentils to get the same amount as a chicken breast, right? And that's a lot harder. So the amount you're eating is going to increase if you decide to go the vegetarian, vegan, which I think is becoming a lot more popular nowadays. Because people think, eating meat is bad for you. No, we were built to be omnivores, right? Not eating meat is definitely a choice. And that's perfectly fine. Some people really struggle to break down animal protein. I have some clients who can't eat beef at all unless it is minced, and can only eat certain types of white meat and do okay with fish. Others, it's spiritual, not a problem, right? But just make sure that the protein that you're getting is enough, right? To support and maintain your muscle mass so that you age well.
So I think it's so important that you talk about this because I try not to call myself vegetarian, but I eat more of a plant-based diet.
Good. So I'm so glad you brought that up.
Yeah, you're right. And so I think one of the things within the journey, and I've always been passionate about nutrition, but I think really knowledge in terms of, okay, so it's not just plant-based nutrition and then it's just done. Like you need to understand what your body needs, and I think this is why having a consult with a nutritional specialist is important, right? And I'll say to people, it's also important to have a biokineticist or a physical trainer when you go to gym, because you, especially in the beginning, need to have that knowledge that's going to empower you to really live that good quality life, right? And when you talk about like the legumes and the proteins and stuff, the lentils, my body just, I love them, but my body struggles with that too.
There you go. So that's a sign that you are struggling to break down a particular type of polysaccharide, and we call that FODMAPs, right? So something within your digestive tract actually becomes inflamed essentially, or responds really badly to the presence of a carb within that particular legume, right? So that's something that's very common. Beans are also unfortunately a problem with some people, and they don't realize it until much later. Often it's not the thing that you eat infrequently that causes a problem. It can be something that you eat every day. And you're like, I've just always had tummy problems. I've just always had them. And I'm like, so what do you eat generally? And they're like, I generally always have this. I'm like, these 3 things, let's try and not eat anything for 2 weeks,
Yeah.
Okay, cut them out completely.
Yeah.
Don't even smell them. Okay, and then after 2 weeks, let's add in one thing. See how your body responds.
Right.
The next week, if there's no response, okay, that's not the problem.
Yeah.
Next week, let's add in another one. If you start to have similar symptoms to before we started this experiment, cause for concern.
So I like that you say that, because I'm just kind of looking at, just that idea and the awareness into, I've always had tummy problems.
Yeah.
Your immune system is so strongly connected to your gut. And that lining is, as I was talking to a health coach recently, and she was explaining that the lining is only one cell, right? And so if you start to have all these inflammatory processes, and for some people it's the gluten that's going to cause that, what we call leaky gut syndrome, you're affecting the immune system, and now you're just having this chronic inflammatory reaction, and which is not healthy, right? But because maybe mom had tummy issues, and
you think it's genetic?
It's genetic.
My whole family's like this.
My whole family's like this, and it's like, well, your whole family eats the same way.
There you go.
Right.
There you go.
So let's talk a little bit about that in terms of how do you start to kind of move from this is what my family's always done, or I've always been this way,
exactly,
to understanding there's a better way.
Yeah. So I'm going to use my family as an example. I come from a family of chefs.
Oh, aren't you lucky?
My mom is a pastry chef, and my sister is also a chef. And people always, when they meet my mom, they're like, "How aren't you fat? Like, why aren't you fat? Like, this doesn't make sense. Like, you make these incredible cakes and confectionery items, like, and your whole family, not one of us, is overweight. How does that work?" And we've always had, I think, a really healthy and very connected relationship with food, I feel. Food was always in abundance. We had breakfast every morning. That's not for everyone, but my mom used to wake up and we had breakfast every morning. So there's some patterns and habits that I have definitely kept, and some things which I have changed along the way. And I remember even as a teenager being like, we need to be healthier. I think we need to start making these sorts of changes. And for some bizarre reason, my parents listened. And we started to make some small changes here and there, right? And that's the thing. What is working, right? Because if nothing was working, you would have died or would be disabled, or something really bad would have happened, right? And sometimes that does happen. It takes a family member having a heart attack, right? Or someone having a stroke, or whatever it is, to be like, okay, I need to check myself, right? Is it diet or was it some other factor, right? If it's diet and we are all looking the same, have similar signs and symptoms and similar issues, then clearly there's a pattern that we are following that is not working for us. It's working against us. And whether that's second helpings, whether that's, overeating is surprisingly easy to do, and it's often distracted eating. So how are you eating? Not just why, how are you eating? Are you eating with the screen? Are you eating in front of the TV?
I like that. That's interesting.
And then it becomes the what, right? Are you just wolfing it down? Do you even taste your food, right? All of that are really, really important things to ask yourself. Or to get me to ask you.
I mean, we could carry on with this forever because it's so interesting. But I think take-home points is one, just being aware that our body hasn't actually evolved to this point of having food all the time. And so, and then just the other thing of tummy issues are they're common, but not normal. And we've spoken about this with back pain, where back pain is common, but not normal, right? And so we want to start shifting this and changing this, right? And I'm so excited with this community that we're kind of sharing all of this with, and that we're in, there's an intentionality around change, right? So thank you for joining us. Remember that the quality of your life matters. Join us in the next video where we talk about evolution and posture. And thanks guys.